This podcast explores the one thing we all crave all day, every day of our lives: connection. Human connection in all its forms, from our need to be connected to ourselves, to something bigger than ourselves, the world around us, and the people in it, for friends and lovers. Welcome to Connecting with John Keegan. You may know me from such things as the New York Times or Fox and Friends or Men's Health or WikiHow or countless other mediums in which I've shared my dating and relationship and lifestyle advice. Or you may not know me. But over the last 10 years plus, I have been all over the world helping people become better at connecting for their dating and love life, and oftentimes just their social life in general, gain more confidence in themselves, love and accept themselves, learn to rewrite the negative scripts they might have in their head about themselves, about being social, about love and relationships, and generally take people out into the real world, not just talk to them, but actually take them out and expose them to their fears and push them past their limits, the beliefs they had that kept them stuck in place. And I've got to walk with thousands of people, men and women, through those fears and into empowerment. And that's why I'm excited to make this podcast all about connection, human connection. And I like to break it down into simple things. First, we need to connect to ourselves. And so many of us feel alienated from ourselves. We feel like we're crawling out of our own skins at time, or we're berating ourselves, or we're just not on point. And I'm going to really go into that today. But also we want to connect to something bigger than ourselves. A source, a God, however you want to call it. Something bigger than ourselves, a cause, a group of friends, a family. And it's really important that we do that for our overall emotional and spiritual well-being. And then we want to connect to our world around us. And the way that I look at that is so many of us are disconnected from the world around us at any, and probably all of us at one point during the day. But many of us are pretty much disconnected all day and swimming around inside our heads and thinking about past, worried about the future, what will be, and I'm really worried it's not going to be good. And not here right now. So it's connection again to your environment, to the present moment. And we're going to get into ways how to do that every day. And they're all about practices. And we're going to give you these great practices. And then, of course, connecting to the people in this world, for friends, for lovers, and how we can create very powerful, impactful energy exchanges with people, even if we just meet them for a moment, even if it's just a simple transaction of ordering a coffee, how you can light up a room or make someone's day or just have an authentic moment. So we're going to explore all of that stuff and more in this podcast, and it's going to unfold as it will, and we'll see how that is. But my general idea is that I'll be talking, and at times I'll take questions from others, and at times I'll tell some stories, and I'll also be interviewing lots and lots of cool people, interesting people from all walks of life. And that's what I'm most excited about, to be honest, not to hear myself talk, but to learn from other people. And hear their experiences. But that's the way that I see it, and that's where I'm coming from. And, again, everything's about how can I become an authentic person. So today I want to talk about, in the genre of connecting with oneself and living in the world and manifesting as who you really are, your real self, I want to talk about authenticity. And how can you and me and be authentic? What does that mean to be authentic? How is that more than just a buzzword or a pop word? How is that more than just being a nice person who doesn't let life get him down? How is that more than just reacting in the moment to everything and calling that authentic? Well, back in the ancient days of Greece, there was a tribe called the Authentics. And they were the opposite of the tribe they called the cowards. And that is what the opposite of authentic is, being a coward. And a coward is always making decisions based on being liked, based on, that they look good, based on being approved of. Basically, a coward is afraid to stand up and say, this is what I feel. This is what I think. This is how I see the world. And coward recoils from truth if the truth may not benefit them. So one of the biggest ways to become an authentic person is to really get over the need to be approved of by all the strangers we want to love and like us. And I've really boiled that down, because there's getting people to like us at all costs. Like, I'm going to go up and I'm going to flirt with you, and I'm going to get you to give me your phone number. So as I learn about you and connect with you and get to know you, I find actually, you're not buying what I'm selling, or I'm actually not buying what you're selling, but I get an agenda, and I'm going to get that phone number. And I'm going to manipulate, and I'm going to change my personality. I'm going to change everything until I get that desired outcome. And that doesn't mean, and most people do that on some level. That doesn't mean they're a psychopath or a sociopath, but it's part of being human. But when you actually want to be an authentic person, a real person, you want to have authentic connections and relationships, deeper meaning relationships, and not just superficial ones, then you really go in approving of yourself into that conversation, and you go in and you learn about people, and you learn if they're really a match for you. If you enjoy what they're saying, if you're enjoying their energy and their vibe they're giving off, and you're really there doing that, seeing if you're in a match. That doesn't mean you're blurting out every political or religious opinion you have, or blurting out every opposite thing you believe that they believe, because that's not authentic either. That's just not a good way to make new friends, But it's like really looking at and answering beyond the need, what I like to say, the desperate, disgusting need to be liked by others, and of course it feels good to be liked, and of course it feels better to be liked than not liked. That's for sure. I mean, that's universal. But it's not great to be liked for someone you're not. Would you agree? It's not great to be loved for someone you're not, or something you didn't do. But it is great to be loved and accepted for someone you are, and for something you did do. For example, imagine being in a relationship, and maybe you've been in one. I know more than one I've been in, where I really, was in love, and I had a relationship, and a monogamous relationship. And over and over and over, there were things that my partner was doing that I didn't like, that I didn't agree with, or things that she would tell me that I couldn't say or do or be, and opinions I had that were really dear to my heart, not just, and if I said them to her, she wouldn't like me as much. It would potentially end a relationship. And so I would find myself really withholding that, bottling that down, bottling those parts of me down, bottling the need to say those things down, because I didn't want to lose the relationship. But what was happening is I was suppressing my big part of myself, and that ended up obviously not working out, and blowing up in some form or fashion at one point. And I lost the relationship anyway. But it wasn't just about a blow up. It was because I wasn't really being me. When I stopped, expressing what I needed to express in a healthy way. I'm not talking about blowing up or this or that. But when I started expressing myself when I needed to express, I lost the girl anyway, because I lost myself. I lost that connection to myself, and me, the great John Keegan that I could be, I was alienating that version of me by not really expressing, communicating what I needed with that person. And also, at the end of the day, at that time, that person and I weren't really jiving in that way. We weren't really going to go the distance because I wasn't able to be all of me, and she wasn't able to be all of her. So my fear of loss, of losing someone that I love, and I had a lot invested in her and her me, so it was like more than just a stranger. We were living together. But my fear of loss of someone else actually ended up alienating me from myself. And then alienating, then we just lost that relationship anyway. And I actually, if you really want to know the truth, and I'll tell it to you now, she wrote me a Dear John letter. And when your name is John, and someone actually writes you a letter in really pretty handwriting in an envelope and hands it to you and looks you in the eye, they're telling you, go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? That's like, wow. Okay, Dear John. And she did it with such purpose, And to this day, and her and I are friends now. We're really great friends, actually, the best of friends. But to this day, that still stings. If your name's Rob and you get a Dear Rob letter or something, or, if your name's Lord Backwood and you get a Dear Lord Backwood letter, then you will probably not feel it as much as I did on that day. But it always hurts, and no one likes it. But she sent me that letter. She went home and visited her parents for a week or so, and I had a week to get out of the house. I couldn't believe it. It was like 2.5 years of something like that living together. I had a week to get out, and I had to move into my friend's third bedroom, which is the size of a small cell. And but luckily it was there to be moved into. So that's what happened. And so anyway, that's another story about breakups and painful breakups. And what typically happens for a man in those things is he chases for months to get her back. And for her, by the time she slips you that letter, or however she decides to end it, by the time she decides to say it's over, she already made up her mind, and she's been mourning it for a couple of months at least before she did that. For a man, it's usually a wake-up call. Like, now it's time to get it together. It's time to, I'll step my game up. I wasn't really being my best self. Now I see it. But she's already done, guys. I'm going to come back to that painful truth another time. But that's really just what I wanted to talk about today is how can I be authentic? How can I be real and true with myself? And this is a good question for you guys. How can you be real and true with yourself? So when we're talking about how you can be authentic every single day of your life, and this is just one aspect of it that I've boiled it down to, but it's a big one, guys. The disgusting, desperate need for the good opinion of others, to be approved of, to be liked beyond all things, beyond all doubt. And how many of us guys fall into the Mr. Nice Guy category? Here comes Mr. Nice Guy. He's got to be liked no matter what. So that what? So that what? So that you can get what you want. But Mr. Nice Guy doesn't get what he wants. He kind of does, but he never really does. So he has a really pretty girl friend who he's hanging out with, being nice to all the time. And underneath he has a little man in his head who's like behind the scenes with a little like 3 or 4 laptops, pulling them up and plotting and planning and meanwhile acting like he's authentic and he's natural, plotting and planning his move on her. One day something's going to work out when she breaks up with this guy, or when that, or when this, or when she's drunk enough, or whatever. She will finally see the light, and he's plotting and he's doing all that. And that's what Mr. Nice Guy is doing. Instead of maybe months before, he walked up to her and said, "Hey, I want to meet you." And he started talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, well, we can be friends." And he said, "Okay, I'll be your friend." And then he showed up, and then she put him in the friend zone. I mean, you're even lucky if that happened. When they say that, they usually just mean get away, But here you are. Now you're hanging around. But you're luckily hanging around with someone and you're not being a good friend to her either, because you're just doing it to get something. And and usually ends up blowing up because I have a lot of, I live in Soho in New York. It's a very fashion capital. So you have a lot of beautiful women, and I've dated many beautiful women, models, whatnot. And, this is part of their life story where many guys want to date them and they only want to date some guys. And so a lot of those guys end up in the friend zone, and you get a lot of Mr. Nice guys. And I'm not saying you can't have beautiful girlfriends, and I definitely think you should, and it's okay to be attracted to them, it's normal. But to be showing up, not being real, and making every move based on that you still want to be with her, when the reality is she just wants you to be her friend, you're not being a good friend to her, and you're being a terrible friend to yourself. So you're being inauthentic. You're being Mr. Nice Guy. And that Mr. Nice Guy always wants to be seen in the best light. He doesn't ever want to be a creep. But Mr. Nice Guy, and I've said it before, is the creepiest guy of all. And I'll tell you, I know a very famous guy who, I'm not going to get into his name now, but he told me in person that when he was growing up, his mother was very stern on him, was very, she was like a leader in the feminist movement at the time. And he kind of took all those messages and really absorbed them to sort of be Mr. Nice Guy. So he had no sexual polarity with women, and he would kind of be around them but be facing the wrong way and doing all the wrong things to actually make them attracted to him. And he realized that being a nice guy is actually the real creep. You're creepy. Now, being a kind man, being a kind person, that's different. Kindness isn't always nice. Kindness isn't always easy. But kindness is some version of the truth coming from you. Kindness is clear. It's crystal clear. It's telling people what they are. For example, let's say a girl doesn't want to date you, or she's your girlfriend and she breaks up with you, and then every other day she calls and is nice to you and still flirts with you and gives you a little hope because, she wants to be nice. And then you're just like, oh, I think she still loves me. We can get back together. Just gonna happen. And she's being so nice. And she's like, you want to come over for lunch? You're like, yeah, I want to come over for lunch. So you come over for lunch, and she's nice. And then she starts telling you about her new boyfriend that she's been dating. And you feel like your head's going to explode. So you blow up on her, and you're like, what the fuck? What's going on? And you're like, what are you talking about? I told you we're just friends. And you're like, I'm not fucking your friend. Right? Now, I've been there. That's why I know it well. And many of us have been there. Or we've been, in some version of that. And she's being nice. But was she being kind? Was she being selfish? Was she being, I just kind of want you around, but I don't want that. All those things you want. So that's a way to look at it. But the boundaries are also in your relationships, in your personal relationships. If someone says, I don't want to date you, and all you want to do is date them, and you say, yeah, I'll be your friend, then you're lying to yourself, and you're lying to her. So you could say, you know what? I understand where you're at right now. I see that you don't see how fun and great and sexy I am. So I'll give you one more chance. I'll show up Tuesday night. You could say something silly like that, but at least you're being honest. And I have asked girls out, and they said, look, we can meet, but just as friends. And I said, all right, you will show up just as friends, and I'll show up bringing my A game. We'll see where it goes. Right? Then at least it's clear. And then she'll either just say, you know what, so let's skip it, or she might show up and you'll see what happens. That's being crystal clear. You can say, hey, we'll see if we can try it as friends, or you can be like, honest, say, really honestly, I have amazing friends. I bet you'd be an amazing friend too. But I actually would not be able to just be your friend. I really am drawn to you and attracted to you, and I want to know you. So that's being authentic because you're being clear, so clarity, purpose, being real, being honest. It doesn't have to be black and white. And by the way, I have been friend zoned by some beautiful women. And when I accepted my reality and my fate, a lot of times I didn't find those girls that interesting to hang out with, to be honest, because there was no more sexual attraction. But sometimes I did. And in fact, I've also been fortunate enough to friend zone some really pretty girls. For whatever reason at the time, usually it was because I was so hooked in on some other girl, I friend zoned them, and then we just became friends. And it's a great feeling to have really good women around you who, without that agenda, who you really connect with. And when you're in and out of relationships, you still have this strong feminine energy around. It's really nice. And for women, a masculine energy, you still have this friends around that are men. There's something really nice about it, that exchange, but at the same time, without all the drama that sometimes a deep interpersonal relationship where you live together and staked all your hopes and dreams on each other on, without all that, So authenticity. Here's another thing, and I just want to wind this down and leave you guys with some questions for yourself, and we'll figure out how to make this thing interactive. Maybe you can leave some comments and questions, and I can answer them later. But imagine if you were wanting to meet new people, and you saw a beautiful person sitting on a park bench. Let's say in this case, it's a guy wanting to meet a girl. But it could be the opposite. So if you're a woman, you can imagine it the other way, or you can be the girl on the bench. And the guy walks up and he looks around and he sees all these people in the park, and in his mind he's like, oh my, what are those people are going to think of me if I say hi to her? What are they? Oh, that old man over there in the corner staring at me weird. And he looks at her. And he finally walks over and sits down, but instead of listening to her, he's listening to all the imaginary, whether the people are real or even oftentimes imagined, really tuning into him, watching him. It puts him right in his head and makes him not listen to her, not be present with the very person he was drawn to connect to. He was drawn to her, and then therefore it's disconnected because he's listening to voices in his head or over concerned about what people think about him. So therefore he can't be his genuine self. So for her, imagine if she's sitting there and she's like, oh, this guy approached me and he gave a nice compliment, or he started a conversation in a way that feels good to me, but at the same time, all she can think about is what's this person behind me thinking? What are those people thinking? What's everyone thinking? Therefore, and because of their obsession with what other people are thinking and wanting to be liked by people they don't even know and never probably will know, they miss out on getting to know someone who did want to know them and who might be worth knowing. So that's just a small example of something I see every day with clients that I've worked with over the years, is this obsession of what strangers think about them. And how can you really be yourself or be authentic if that's all you're thinking about? So these are pretty good questions for you to ask yourself. Where am I not being authentic, being true to myself, true in my relationships? Am I being clear with myself with what I really want? Am I really expressing myself? And I say expressing yourself not in an explosive, combative way, but in a way where you're really expressing yourself with your friends, with the people you work with, in a way that's productive, but expressing yourself, your opinions, your thoughts, in a way that's healthy and productive for the relationship to go forward and to grow. Because it only can grow and go forward if you are being genuine and authentic to yourself. And am I being a really good friend? Am I being a good lover? Am I really being clear? So these are questions you're going to ask yourselves, and of course we'll explore this topic of authenticity and what it means to your overall well-being many, many more times in many, many more ways. But this is Connecting with John Keegan, and this was a podcast about authenticity and how you can be more authentic today. And I know I'm going to think about all the things I just said, and I hope you do too. Please leave any thoughts. Please share it. If you know anybody else who might like this or resonate with it, please share it because that makes the world go round. And it would be cool to have a bigger dialogue with more people in the world. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Connecting with John Keegan.